What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today Dragon Ball FighterZ. And yes, that is how it's pronounced, I looked it up. Have you ever had that feeling where you imagine a game in your head for years, but just assume that it would never actually exist because it was too perfect? That was the first thought that went through my head when diving into this brawler. As a little kid, I'd run home every single day and watch the latest episode of Dragon Ball Z with my friends, all crowded around this tiny, terrible TV, cheering when our favorite heroes won and crying in shock when they lost. That deep love for this universe is something that we share with millions of other fans all across the globe, but while the anime was fantastic, the games we got that are based on this were a little bit hit and miss. While many of them are fun, it's hard to call them good fighters. It's for that reason though that this project really caught my eye originally. This was designed by Arc Softworks, a studio that's built loads of best-selling games in this genre, so I was curious how they would handle it. Well, thankfully, now that I've spent about 40 hours playing it, I can tell they totally nailed it. They managed to combine the eccentric trash talk of the show and the ultra-fast moves of a series like Guilty Gear. Blending these ideas is great, but it's not quite perfect. Let's dig into the combat itself, since that's really the most important aspect of a game like this. Things are based on a light, medium, and strong attack system, which makes it where it's very easy to pick stuff up. There's an auto combo element to this, where it makes it where if you keep pressing a single kind of attack, you'll keep hitting an opponent for at least a couple blows in a row. This makes it very easy to learn a new character, because you know that as long as you keep pressing strong attack over and over again, you'll get to knock them around a tiny bit. Now this isn't to say that the combat is simplistic. It is not. There is a lot of depth here, but they tried to make the game very clearly easy to learn, something that you could pick up and within 10 minutes be doing 10 and 20 hit combos. However, to be the best is all about making your own combos. There are extra elements to this beyond just your strong, medium, and light attacks, and that's of course your super moves and guard breaks. It's here that I think the game shines the brightest, because every character has two different specials, but also lots of different ways to try and shove you around, to try and control the battlefield in a way that I've never seen any fighting game do. These characters are obviously incredibly strong, so when they hit people you can expect to see them flying, but there's an extra part of this, which is that you need to try and worry about where you're going to put them. If two people are really trying to land a giant series of attacks on each other, you need to worry about not only counterattacking and guarding, but also where they're going to end up. If I'm playing as Teen Gohan, his typical medium attack combo launches people into the air, and his special, the Kamehameha, goes off at a 45-degree angle towards the sky, which means if I want to do maximum damage and keep my opponent off guard, I need to launch them and perfectly time my special. That way I can lock him out from actually being able to counterattack me. This very straightforward combat makes an underlying set of rules, something that if you learn can make it where every other character has a general sense of understanding, but don't let that fool you into thinking that this game is going to be something that you master in about 10 hours, because it's not. This game takes a very, very long time to get good at, especially if you're trying to play online, but there's a lot of smaller conveniences that I think really improve the experience, and one of them is just the super dash. So I've played a lot of fighting games in my life, probably about 150 of them, and something that always kind of irked me is when two people get too far apart and start just launching projectiles at each other. If you're trying to just hit your opponent with small damage from across the field, there's not a lot you can do to try and close that range. Super Dash is something they've invented so you can just immediately fly right across the arena and get right back in your opponent's face. And this is so cool because I feel like it keeps the action moving. There's never that downtime. If I'm not landing a combo, it's because I'm trying to power up or I'm preparing the next massive attack. There's not that dead time where you're actually catching your breath. The average match is only about 60 seconds, but it can feel like 5 minutes because you're just so tensely trying to constantly attack, counterattack, and dodge the next big blow. just a moment ago I mentioned the online play, and this is where I think the entire game is actually focused. While there is a story, and the story is really fun, this game is clearly made for people like me who want to go online and try and kick some butt. In fact, when you first go into the game, you go basically into an online lobby. To the left side there is the tower for story mode, on the right is where you go for like one-on-one challenges in arcade mode, but dead ahead, clearly the main event is online play. Now going into these online matches, they work pretty dang well, but not flawlessly. There just seems to be the tiniest bit of delay, and I think it's just because the servers are being hammered. I've been playing this game for the week before release, but now I've been testing it on release day, and it's just got a little bit of problems. To try and adapt to the fact that you are going to have a small amount of lag, there's this counter at the top of the screen that tells you how many frames behind you are, which is very vital if you're somebody who needs to literally count every single frame for your next big combo. While playing in all these online matches, I began to notice what I consider the biggest problem I have with this game, which is just that the roster isn't that big. Having over 20 characters seems really massive on paper, but when you actually go into the game, almost everybody is playing as the 4 different Gokus or trying to be one of the different Gohans. When you get into matches, there are times where occasionally an entire team is just Vegeta. That isn't necessarily a huge detriment, but I just kind of wanted a little bit more variety. There are probably 1,000 amazing characters that have existed between this long-running series, so why is it that I just have 10 different variations of these couple people? Most likely they're going to be introduced later on as DLC, but I kind of wanted more up front. I wanted things to be a little bit more diverse, to make it where every match would be a new interesting challenge, because something that is probably the most important about FighterZ is the team dynamic. Each fighter actually performs and behaves very differently in battle, so you need to make sure that your team is properly balanced. And I feel like if we had a larger roster, the amount of different combinations of cool fighters could have been a lot deeper than this kind of shallow offering we got up front. Now, that's not to say that it's bad. In fact, the characters we got are very expertly built. Each one has a very interesting set of strengths and weaknesses. Like, if I am playing as Goku Black, he's very powerful at close range, but his key attacks are on the lesser side. I'm really just saying that I wanted more from that, because the other parts of this game, other than the roster, are really actually phenomenal. Speaking of other aspects, let's talk about what I think kind of actually impressed me the most, which is the story itself. This is super goofy. It actually takes place after the events of all the other Dragon Ball stuff, which is pretty cool. Instead of just doing the typical thing where they retell a story we already know, this takes us on a new adventure, and one where the world is practically on the brink of destruction. Somehow there's these series of mysterious waves that have reduced everybody's power level back down to 0. People are weak. They can do some attacks, but for the most part, this basically makes it where everybody is magically the same strength, and it sort of explains why somebody like Yamcha can beat up somebody like Frieza. Personally, I found this really cool because it showed that the writers wanted to explain why the combat works, about why all these legendary heroes and villains can pound against each other and not just one-shot each other like they would in the show itself. Taking these characters in different directions while also kind of paying homage to the series we love so much was a really smart move, and I think it just kind of reinforces the stuff I love the most about FighterZ. Dragon Ball is a long-running franchise that's done so much already, so actually trying to reinvent not only the characters themselves, but the core combat that we already enjoy so much was a very bold move, and they magically pulled it off. This is the kind of game that just makes me hungry. It makes me want a little bit more of the awesomeness we already have. While I do think that this needs a tiny bit more content, what we got is top notch. Okay, so we've heard some good and some bad, but let's over the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Dragon Ball FighterZ a 9 out of 10. Since I'm sure a bunch of you are going to ask in the comments what my main team is, I use Yamcha. Yes, surprisingly, he fights really, really well. I use Super Saiyan Vegeta and Teen Gohan. This is a killer squad, and while I may not win every match online, with these guys at my side, I'll happily lose as long as I can take out a couple of them. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. This has been DreamcastGuy with another review. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming.
Hey, I'm Super Tiny Goku telling you to smash that like button. And I'm Boo, and apparently I'm doing the splits and I don't know why, but I'm also tiny. And I'm Giant Future Trunks because in the future nobody's allowed to get a haircut. Hit that like button! Why am I playing with toys? Why do I even have this stuff? It's been on my desk for like 10 years.
Oh, hi. I'm just working on the next video. If you want to see what it is, go ahead and click this button and you can subscribe. Also, if you click these video links, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. Now I'm just going to sit here for a minute and wait for you to subscribe. Oh, I guess I could put on these giant glasses. I literally found these on a roller coaster.